Okay. I'm live. I think I'm live. We hope we're live. Alright, so welcome back to Art Day. We are needle felting. That's our choice subject lately, or medium. We have been following along with the Bob Ross Joy of Painting Season 3. We're on episode 6. This one is taking us a little bit longer because I'm having to do shorter time blocks. Because life and stuff. So, for those that want to see the tutorial in full, they can find the link here. And that will take you to the Bob Ross YouTube page. And according to the tutorial, there's about 6 minutes left. However, what's wrong?
Oh, Peanut was scratching at the door. Honestly, I don't so.
However, we've got a long ways to go. We are not 6 minutes from actually finishing. He does it a lot. I mean, he does it so much faster. Number one, it's with paint. We don't have the speed of paint with this. And number two, he's been doing it forever, so he makes it look easy. We are going to pick up where we left off last time. And last time we were working on getting our grass saw worked in here. And we were doing that by mixing 4 colors together. So we're gonna work on getting that together. I'm just gonna kind of stretch out our fibery bits here a little bit. So this is light green in the Big Twist value. I'm gonna grab some Buttercup Yellow from Paintbox. Simply Chunky. I'm gonna try to get about the same amounts in there, but you know, we'll see. Mix these two guys together a little bit. Let them figure out where and how they want to be smushed together. We'll get some lime green in here. And this is from Paintbox as well. P-But's here. P-But says morale, as P-But often does. Sorry, bad allergy day, and I'm out of allergy medication. Woohoo! So I'm just gonna kind of mix all these guys together. Alright, I'm gonna see about just trying to. Sometimes you can roll them. There we go. I don't want it to be a tight roll though. That's not really gonna help us. And we're gonna need some skizzers. Okay. So it is Sunday. Hope everybody's having a good day. Keep forgetting. My brain wants to like line it up in the middle of the pad. Don't need to do that. I think on this piece we'll go this way. I am going to try to overlap this just a little bit with the color section next to it. P-butt!
Dude, my head hurts too much for you to be doing this today.
Relax. Do I need to cancel?
No.
Okay.
I just don't need him jumping all over my desk.
Alright. And I want to at least try to bring it up a little bit on the bottom of the upper row so it doesn't look too stripy, too rowy. We don't want it to look like corn or anything. We're not planting crops here. I'm gonna trim off that bottom. No, it doesn't have to be completely even with the stuff before it. Your lengths can be a little bit varied. And I just want to make sure that get all these little loose bits tacked down. Alright. Just gonna pop that up off of the mat real quick. And if it's a little bit easier for you to start at the bottom edge, then that's fine too. That way you know how long you are here. And a lot of people might be like, well, why the hell did you bother putting in all the green if you're just gonna do this over top of it? And that's because there's bits in here where that green's popping through. And then we're not sitting here trying to cover the gray background. So it has a purpose. It does. And my finger is here. I'm not putting a shit ton of pressure on this back here. I'm just kind of keeping it from bunching and balling all up and taking too much of it in one go and shoving too much of it through before I really wanted it to be there. Because if I move my hand, this whole thing will be trying to get shoved through it well before it really needs to be, and you know, we'll be blowing through a lot more fluff that way. So I'm also just trying to kind of resource manage here. I mean, we still have a good amount of this, but I don't know when I'll be able to replace colors. And why blow through a bunch if we don't necessarily need to right away? does look a little stripy in there. But I think as we're getting this section put in here, it might not. What is he doing?
He's licking me.
That's what that noise is. Like, we'll be able to make it not be quite so lined up there as we're going along. And this row I'm gonna pull a little bit further over into our walkway here. I mean, I really probably should have did that a little bit more on this row, but that's okay. And Bob's section in through here, I know he was using a lot of what looked like that cad yellow. But he was mixing the cad yellow, the yellow ochre, and the sap green together, and he kind of got this like toned down light yellowish green, and it sort of depends on what way the camera, I've noticed, is looking at this piece, because from the side you can kind of see a little bit of the color variation, but when they were looking at it dead on, it just looked yellow. And I was like, really? Or depending on the day, my eyes are seeing different colors. I don't know. But, that's okay. This is sort of the color combination he was using, so we're just gonna go with it and we'll see what happens here. Because I know on the screen it looks very green for me, but that could be just the colors on my monitor, like on our piece. But we'll see what happens here. Well, crooked and shit. There we go. There we go. Alright, where's our bottom row? So, like I said, I want to overlap a little bit of what's next to us, and then a little bit of what's above us. A little bit varied in our height. And if you see anywhere that looks maybe a little too stripy, then you can always go back in and, you know, lay some more stuff or put a bush in over that section to break it up, if you so choose. Trim off that section there. And we'll probably only do like one more row across on this side. Probably. Okay. Just trying to make sure we've got all the little guys tucked into here. It's funny that there's that splotch right there where there doesn't seem to be any. Oh, maybe it's that there. Okay. So now, let's see about filling in this next section here. And I kind of like how we're mixing these together beforehand. It's kind of working. Or we're getting that slight variation of what's popping up here. Now, if you would rather do one color at a time, and plan it out a bit more, or do one color at a time and just do it more randomly until you've got the space filled in, that's cool too. You do that. This is just what I decided to try out this time. Just to kind of see what sort of effect we're gonna get. And if I'm gonna like it. Just experimenting a little bit here. Oh, and as a side note, we will be doing Diablo 4 for a bit. So the rest of the schedule, even though I'm not really going to change the schedule, it'll just end up being Diablo 4 for a couple of weeks primarily. We don't have the early access, so we won't be starting till the 6th when it goes live. For some reason we were thinking we did, and then when I went back and got stuff situated on this PC, we were working on some stuff last night in between our streams after dinner, trying to set up guest star. Oh my god, that was, because of the situation with my account, that was a bit of a nightmare. But because at first we couldn't figure out how we were going to use the same cell phone because we only have the one, and we finally figured it out, but that was quite the adventure in doing so. But we realized that we needed the deluxe digital or better to get the 4 extra days, and after seeing that, I remembered having that conversation with the husband and deciding that $20 more was not worth it for only 4 extra days. because that was 2 more WoW tokens we were gonna have to farm, and it was just like, man.
We'd already had enough farming.
Yeah, and the market was starting to get oversaturated with stuff, and it was starting to become quite the chore because we were having to farm double just to try to keep up and change what we were farming, and it was starting to get obnoxious, and I'm like, this is not gonna be substantially sustainable for long term here. And we were struggling to get like the last 2 tokens, but we're just like, for only 4 extra days, $20 ain't worth it. If it had been an extra $10 maybe, or if it had been like a full week or 2 weeks or something, then we probably would have did it, but no, that's okay. that was okay. I'm like, yeah. I don't know about that, Chief. Like, we like Diablo, but not. We don't live and breathe Diablo, so it wasn't wasn't something that we could think, or we thought we could muster through. Technically, I could get it. I have $25 sitting on Blizzard, but then he would have to get it, and we don't have that kind of funds right now. In fact, the only way we were able to even get Diablo was to farm the WoW gold to turn it into Blizzard balance. Otherwise, that shit just wasn't gonna happen. Let's see here, we'll get some more buttercup. Peabut. These cats have been acting crazy the past day. 2 days. Like, I don't know what their deal is. They are driving me nuts. That's a lot of fluff we got going on in there. I need... It might have been a little too much on the... buttercup, maybe. Because we suddenly did get very, very yellow. Very yellow. Oh, I just knocked something on the floor. I have no idea what it was. I suppose if I had like the hand cards, doing this bit would be a little bit easier. Trying to be very careful that I don't snag my fingers here. Yeah, I mean, if you have the hand cards and you want to do something like this, maybe go ahead and try using those to mix these fibers together. That might have a cool effect. Alright, so I'm gonna try. This might be too much fluff to really get a good grip on. I've got a lot of fluff in here. Probably too much. Alright, so I did want to come over just a little bit here. I just want to take that rounded edge off. Just so it doesn't look quite so domey. Hang on. Didn't realize I had my keyboard tray kind of in my lap. Like, I can't find a happy height on this chair. When I get the chair high enough for the top of the desk, then, depending on the way I'm sitting, my keyboard tray is kind of in my lap. Bumped up off of the tray rail, and I can hear it tapping the desk. Probably actually one of the reasons why I've not gone and done the WD-40 on the pull-out, because I'm afraid I'll get it all over my pants by accident. And that's no good. Man, oh man, setting up that guest star stuff was a fucking nightmare. I had switched over to Firefox, but then I had to switch back to Chrome, or I thought, you know, I could get away with just having one browser, and no, I need two, so I'm still primarily using Firefox, but I had to pull Chrome back into the mix, and because apparently guest star is only working on Chrome right now, because it's still kind of newish. And then the whole time we were trying to set it up, we couldn't figure out why my screen was reversed. And then we had to link our two accounts, and that was a very loud vehicle. Sorry. I don't control the traffic noise. For like a half an hour, we're sitting here, and we're like, but why is my image reversed? Because we couldn't find anything about it, and then we finally realized when we went to set up him guest starring with me, because we were first working on me guest starring with him, we finally realized that it was like that on purpose. For some technical reason that I can't remember now, but Twitch did it on purpose. So you realized that you weren't live or some shit, or I don't remember. Whatever it was actually working as intended the whole time, and we're just like, really? But like, we had to disable and re-enable so much shit on my account to get it linked with his, so we could use the same fucking phone number. Alright, so I do have plans to replace this mat, so hopefully it's not quite so domed up, at least for a little while. But that's gonna have to wait a little bit longer. Hopefully I'll be able to get that done by July. Might happen before then, but we'll see. We will see what we can make happen there. Okay. Let me try that pulled up there, so you can kind of see the bottom edges trying to pull in on us now. I mean, not trying to, it is, but it's not that big of a deal. As long as we still have a little bit to work with that we can attach to our dowel rods. I still haven't figured out what color we're gonna make those dowel rods. It might be a light brown, like a real light coffee color. Haven't completely decided yet. All right. Easy, Momo. He's getting a little scratchy. Okay, so we'll get this guy worked in along the bottom edge here. As we tap along here. Hang on, let me check something real quick. Okay. Sorry about that. Alrighty. We'll get all this tapped into here. So it might be impossible to get every single little loose bit of fiber, but as long as you get the majority of it tacked down, should be alright. Even now I'm like spending extra time on certain spots just to try to make sure we're getting them, and then I'm seeing where they kind of still have little loose bits floating around here and there. Alright, so I'm just going to get this little clump here from us trimming off. Our bit of excess. You know, take your time with it. You don't need to rush. Number one, this isn't a medium that you can really rush through, in my opinion, depending on what you're doing. But I don't really see the point in rushing. Not really gonna get us anywhere any faster, because, you know, we'll just end up with poked fingers and whatnot. Poked fingers are no fun. Not really. Okay. So this guy. Oh, careful, careful. Okay. It pinged funny when I was trying to scrape that up. I thought I had actually gone through the finger thingy. I was like, uh-oh. Don't tell me I broke another one. I mean, I know I'm real good at snapping these guys, but it's not necessarily a talent I want to have. Not really. I still have a few. But depending on how many we still have come October, I might ask for another vial of stabby bits when it comes to around Christmas. But let's see how that goes. We work on getting this put in here. Now this is, you know, a bit more time consuming as we get towards the bottom section. But it's also slightly satisfying to slowly start to see the things finally taking shape. We still have a big tree to put in, not to, you know, spoiler alert. There is a big tree coming. I don't know if that's really a spoiler alert. It is Bob. We have a bridge instead of a cabin. I don't think there's a cabin in the next one. In episode 7. I don't think there is. Remember, when you're trimming, you want to try to get as close as you are comfortable with, but you don't want to be like so close that you're, excuse me, in danger of cutting your project. Because while it might be able to be felted back together with some magic, it would still be a trial and a half just because, you know, the thing happened, and I don't know how well a repair would work. And depending on where the snip might happen, it might look distorted once you try to fix it, so it's just easier to be a little bit more careful to begin with. Hey, Mrs. Rock Guru. How are you? How's everything over there? How's your kitchen coming? I think you were still working on that last time we talked. I think. So, very slow. Well, as long as it's something that you're happy with in the end, I suppose it's worth it. You know? Becoming a labor of love. Or insanity, whichever happens to be the case. Maybe it's both. I'm afraid to even think about house renovations to that extent here. This house is so old. We have one thing that we have to do eventually, but I'm terrified about it because I'm afraid of what we're gonna find and how large of a can of worms is gonna be opened by touching the one thing, and I'm like, I really don't want to know. I really don't want to do this, but I know it's gonna have to be done eventually, and I'm just like, ugh. Because what needs to be done could very easily rack up to like $10,000 to $15,000 in the blink of an eye. In my brain. So I'm just like, ugh. We don't have that kind of money to fuck around with. We don't even have that kind of money to not fuck around with, but it might not actually be that bad, but in my brain, things are just gonna go wrong the second we get somebody in here to try to do the thing, because it's not something that I want us to fuck about with. And I'm just like, oh no. Please, please no. After the fun and excitement that we had with the sewer line getting replaced and things working out a little differently than we had hoped, because after the plumbers got under the house, they're like, we don't know what the fuck's going on under here. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, it looks like there's old bits of previous sewer line that we don't think is being used anymore, and it just like S-curves off into nothing, and we don't understand what this is about. And then we've got this pipe here that's kind of attached to this spot here, and we can't really touch this here, because if we touch that, then this could come loose, and this is like a 200-pound pipe, and it's gonna crash through your roof because it's an exhaust vent. And we're like, oh my god. And I'm like, we don't have the money to fix that kind of problem. We barely have the money to fix this. It was... And then they're telling us you really are gonna need to replace the water inlines soon. Really should do it now, but really didn't have the money to do that right now, and then one of the other things they found is one of the things that we need to get done, and I'm just like, oh god, they kind of sort of reinforced it, but they're like, yeah, we're not the right people to fix this though, so we kind of don't want to touch it, but we'll reinforce it. Like, okay. I'm just like, great. But I mean, the house was built in the mid-20s, either early 20s or mid-20s. I know we don't know what parts have been added onto it since then. I'm pretty sure this wasn't the entire blueprint from the beginning. The house has the feel of odd rooms where this did not feel like this was original. And if it was original, it does not make sense at all. Alright, I know I kind of have this bit here kind of detached from the rest of it. I might have to add a little bit more green into that. So how are things going? You still doing your challengers? Taking a break. Alright, let me snip that a bit. And we'll get this worked into here. And best as we can. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to add maybe a little bit more green to that bunch. Not much, just a little. We'll see what happens with that. So I really don't have that much to hold down to keep from getting pulled in all at once. So I'm going to start at after anchoring, well, trying to anchor a few of those top pieces. Just gonna work on the bottom first there. So I'm in the middle of doing another video edit. For someone that hates to edit video, I sure have a lot of editing to do. I finally finished a gouache piece that I was working on. I think the photo's up on Insta. Should be. Probably Kofi too. And I'm working on the video edit of that. I've got 2 more videos of that to cut down. I think one's like 45, 50 minutes, and the other one is, I think, another hour-ish. I try not to let my blocks of recording get too long. Then they just feel impossible to get through. Maybe just the tiniest bit more green on that. Maybe. Alright. So, I mean, it's getting there. It looks, you know, a little messy. There's a little bit more, the green is being a little more prevalent through there than it is in front of me. Like, it looks a little more exaggerated for the amount that's poking through than it actually is with the way the light's hitting that, but that's okay. Okay, we don't want this, like, we want it kind of overgrown and messy looking, but not so much, you know? We'll see. So by the time I get that done, I'll probably have this one ready to go. I've got another hang on. There we go. There was a piece of fluff, I think, touching my leg. It was touching it just so that it was freaking me out. That light little fuzzy tapping in the air circulating through here. But I have another project that I'm in the middle of off stream that I've been in the middle of for forever. I just haven't had the time to get back to it, and I'm mad that I haven't had the time to get back to it. But also, I want to get one recording wrapped up before I jump back into another one, which is what I should have did with that gouache painting. I didn't. I had started that one back in March and never got back to it. Life kind of got silly on me. Alright, let's see here. That trimmed up. And it's not bad for how little I use gouache, but the medium's really starting to grow on me. Just a bit. And I'm thinking of some other ways that I might want to work on it. Or other things I want to do with it. Let's not do that, Mr. Needle Felting Needle. I'm not into that.
Please don't.
You didn't see what happened.
I don't need to see that, I can imagine. Anything that makes you pause and think is concerning.
So we'll get this guy kind of worked into here. I'm going to put another one like right on the edge here, so we'll take care of that little space in there. But now I'm getting excited for D4. Be nice to have a new Diablo to play. Didn't mind D3 too much. But I'm kind of jonesing for something new to kick around with for a little bit. I mean, I know we're in the middle of a couple other things. Timberborn did an update. I haven't really had the chance to look at it yet. But if I do, I might need to do a new save because they're still considered early access. Although at this point, when do you consider early access to be done? And them just doing game updates? I mean, feels like they've been in early access for fucking ever. My mental definition of early access is quite different than what some game companies consider early access, I guess. But they did do an update for one of the factions. Loud-ass vehicles today. Where they redid some of their buildings and made some buildings exclusive to a different faction, and it seems like they've set it up to eventually have more than just the two factions playable. Maybe. But I don't know if they're ever going to add in another one down the road. I guess it depends on if they ever finish and come out of early access. I don't know. And then I saw a new game that is in early access also show up on my Steam recommended yesterday, and I was like, oh, what is this? That actually looks interesting. It's another like town city builder surprise, but it looks kind of cute. I didn't hate the graphics. I didn't have the time to watch the live demo, though, that they were doing, so I was kind of sad about that. I would have liked to have seen that from the beginning. And that was called Fabledom. I think that's how it was pronounced. And the price didn't look too bad on it. I think it was under $20. It might have been on sale for $13.99. It's a very odd price point, but I think that's what it was on sale for at that moment, or maybe it was $15.99. The print is so small on Steam sometimes for me. Pretty sure at the moment, as of yesterday, it was under 20. Put it that way. It looked interesting. But Coral Island is keeping us pretty busy with all of its updates. I mean, they're still early access, too. I kind of laughed looking at the few things that were on my Steam wish list, seeing so many of them listed as early access or not even have a release date on them yet. The one that I was interested in, I think, just says, like, fall of this year, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I almost feel like that got pushed back. I feel like that was a different date before. Okay. Now, I suppose, like, if you really wanted to, you could, like, throw some splashes of color in there for some wildflowers or something if you really wanted. that's up to you. Alright, now with this guy. Oh, weird fuzzy in there. With this guy, I'm gonna start to come in over here. And just kind of get a little bit of overgrowth on this side of our pathway going. I mean, I really should probably be starting over here on the edge, but that's kind of where I want to be at the moment, so we're just gonna kind of roll with it. Should be alright. I don't see why it really wouldn't be. And I don't want to waste any fluff. We are looking pretty good here. Hope everybody's weekend went okay. It's a holiday weekend for us, Memorial Day. What do you do with them once you've completed them? Well, I was trying to sell them, but you could frame them. Probably need to go with, so these are approximately 8 by 10. You could get a mat to put on it. Might have to go custom mat because sometimes they shrink in a little bit. So by the time I get them cut, it's not always cut off of the base or cut the extra bits of base off of it. It's not always still 100% 8 by 10. So you might have to get like a mat and then you can put it in a frame. You might have to go with a glassless frame or you could shadow box it. I was thinking of trying to do one with a shadow box and then adding some extra elements to it to kind of 3D it a little bit, but haven't felt that ambitious and I haven't had that kind of money to fuck around with. Or what I started doing with the last one, and I really like how it came out, so it might be how I do the displays on them in the future, is I managed to get some half dowel rods that are flat on the one side, and I glued it to the top and bottom edging that I didn't cut off. I cleaned up the sides, and then this I just left, I painted it white. I primed it, painted it white. And I thought I had more of like a jute rope, like a hempy rope, but this was just more like twine, but it's what I had. So I was like, alright, we'll roll with that. And then I put that on there and just kind of made like a little wall hanging. And I think the white kind of what made this pop on the dowels. So I felt a little bit better about that. And then you can just like make a little hangy guy with it. So it's probably going to be what I do with this one is that I'm going to I've got some more dowel rods. I'm going to prime them. We'll probably do that together just so you guys can see it because I didn't show you that process with the last one. So we'll prime those. We'll pick out a paint color. I'm still trying to figure out what paint color I want to go with this one. We could potentially go with the purple, but I don't know if the purple's gonna work. Or we might go with like maybe this light like coffee color that we have highlighting the bridge, and our pathway here, I have a paint color that's similar to that. Or we could go with like a gray to pull up the gray that's in the path of the highlighting. I've got those 3 options. I just haven't decided what color might work the best. I'm probably gonna paint that out on some scrap paper, or we can do a test swatchy in the sketchbook and then lay it against it and see what it looks like. So this one's going to be oriented like this. So I don't think I need to actually cut the dowel rods. For the other piece I did because the dowels were too long. But let me see. I have the dowels right here. Give me 1 second. I need to get up real quick anyway. Okay, sorry. Had to pet the cat on my way by. Alright. So, this is what they look like. These should just be long enough. So, we're going to trim off the sides when we're done, right? And then we will sand these up if there's any rough edges on them. And we'll glue them to the top edge. Right? After we get it, you know, evened up. I might have to trim a little bit of this off. We'll see. But we'll get that bad boy up there. And then this one will come in on the bottom here. A little hard to do one-handed. And, you know, and then we'll have a little bit on the end hanging over. Maybe that much. That should be enough to do our ropey wraparound. And, you know, we just have to figure out a paint color. I don't want to go green, and I don't want to go yellow. And orange, I think, is going to be too obnoxious. So, you know, I'm really kind of leaning towards this, like, dusty lilac. But, again, I don't know if it's going to be too much. So I'm torn between, like, I've got, like, a wood smoky brownish gray. I've got, like, this light coffee color, or I've got, this, like, purpley color. So I'm going to swatch all 3 out on a piece of sketchbook paper and line it up and see, like, after we cut the edges off, and see who looks better. So we've probably got at least 2 more sessions before this guy's fully finished. And I used tacky glue to attach the dowels to the other one. This time, though, where do I want to start here? I'll probably do the hot glue if we're gonna finish it off on stream, just so it dries faster. Because I originally started to use, or tried to use, my Elmer's, was it Super Bond, Extra Bond? I don't know. I had a specific Elmer's glue that I was like, oh yeah, this should hold it. Forgetting that it was really for non-porous, and I had gotten them, I mean, you can use it on porous, but I'd originally gotten it to attach the magnets to the back of the wood slices when we made those with the last set of actual painting along with Bob Ross that we did. And it might have eventually grabbed the wood, but it just kind of soaked into the felt and wasn't really doing anything, and I was like, oh, right. Probably not the best glue to use on that. It made the felt super stiff. So, I mean, maybe if I had done a second round after doing that, it would have attached pretty well, but it was like an hour and a half in and it still wasn't grabbing the wood, and I was like, ah, fuck this. And so I just grabbed the tacky glue, and good old tacky glue, man. Came in clutch, so I didn't have to get out the glue gun. I mean, I don't mind using the glue gun necessarily, but some days it's just a pain in the ass. I have to make sure I've got room on the desk and find an outlet to plug it into, and then I have to keep reminding myself, that's hot, motherfucker, don't touch it. Don't bump it over. Remember what happened last time? I mean, I'm pretty good at getting myself with that thing, so I'm a little gun shy around it because I know I'm a bit of a klutz at times. And I'll think I'm paying attention, and then the glue gun has a way of telling you, no, you really weren't paying attention. You got complacent. Your attention drifted for 2 seconds. But I need to get some more glue sticks because I think I have to make a arrangement for my dad's grave for Father's Day. If the government stops fucking around and my mom actually gets her money. So right now we don't know if she's gonna get paid, and which means we don't know if we're getting rent money from her, so we can live off of that for the next month. Fun times. So if she gets paid, she said she wants to go to Hobby Lobby, because god damn it, they've got the best floral selection around. Last time we lucked out because she wanted stuff for Easter and it was 50% off on the bushes. Actually, I think it was bushes and stems. I don't know if we're gonna find that kind of sale in time for that, so it might be a little more expensive this time. I don't like the flower selection at Joann's. I haven't looked that hard at the options from Walmart, but they don't have very much in our Walmart, I should say. And Michael's is not close enough. Our closest Michael's is approximately 50 miles from here. And Michael's can be a little expensive. But he doesn't want to drive all the way down there just to go to the craft store. I mean, it is a bit of a hike. Especially to an area we're not really familiar with. So I don't fully blame him. And I don't like ordering fake flowers unseen. And then you have to pay for shipping and everything, and it just starts to become like a whole huge ass production. we're just getting our next round of colors worked together. I don't like going to Hobby Lobby, but damn it, they had some really nice flamingo shit the last time we were in there, and it's really hard to find the flamingo shit this year for some reason. That's another project I'm in the middle of that I need to get back to. I've got a wood cutout flamingo that I want to do my tissue paper art on, but I got mad at myself because I had like 4 projects I'm in the middle of. I'm like, girl, stop it, pick one and finish it, and then you can move on to the next one. So I'm not recording the flamingo though. He's too big to record. He doesn't fit in my workspace very well, since my workspace is about the size that you see here. That's about it. It's about the size of this placemat. Size of a Dollar Tree placemat. As far as being able to record its stuff goes, I mean, I've got some other table options if it comes to it. It's just, that's, you know, if you're considering my ability to be able to record the stuff, this is the size of the workspace. I know other people have larger workspaces. I do not. So it would be nice, but we're also really tight on space on the whole here. So space is at a premium in this joint. Still mourn the loss of that one computer desk, although there was no way we could get it to come with us. I don't even know how we managed to get it down in the basement to begin with when we moved into that house. I know we had to flip it upside down and slide it down on its surface, because it's one of the... that sucker, man. I had that thing for years. That made it through 2 different... one? No. We had that before we moved into that house. And that sucker was a bitch to put together. I remember my dad having to use wood glue at one point. Like, they gave you wood glue, and I was like, oh shit, this fucker ain't coming apart. This was not a take her apart and pack up the pieces and move her with you to kind of desk. It was more of a, once you put it down, it's gonna stay there kind of deal. I mean, it used to have a big hutch on the top of it, and over time something happened and I lost the hutch, or I got mad at the hutch and took it off. And I've got a couple of other desks that I've looked at that I would kind of like, but I'm in this weird spot of where, well, number one, we don't have the money to get them. Number two, it's going to be really tight on the space that we have to work with. Though we think the one will fit, because we were measuring out, at least in the one direction. We didn't really measure out in the other direction, which we probably should have. But it didn't really matter, because there wasn't the money to get it right now anyway. And there might be a different design that ends up coming out when we do have the money that I might end up going for better, because I need it to be dual functional. I need it to be like a computer desk and something I can do art on, just because of how my setup is, because I don't use like a separate camera to record. I'm recording through my PC and streaming through my PC. A lot of like the art YouTubers and vloggers when they're recording, they're using their phones or like or other like handhelds that they can stick on a tripod and set that up, and I don't have that kind of setup. Even when I'm recording the stuff and the projects that are going up on the YouTube channel, I'm using my webcam to record it, so that's what I got. So I know sometimes the angle isn't always ideal and sometimes my arm is in the way, but try to make it work. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd have, a separate room that I could have running kind of like an office type deal where I could have an art desk set up with next to a computer desk that I could set up the cameras and stuff with. But I would probably need a much beefier computer than what I've got. I don't even know how many cameras this sucker can run.
As many as you can plug into it.
Yeah, I don't know how many ports there are on it.
I don't even know. I don't know if you have more than like one USB port available.
Yeah, it's because I know we were talking about potentially getting a second camera, but I don't think I have the ports to run a second camera, to be perfectly honest. Because this wasn't a custom built guy. That's kind of wild there. Let's see what we can do here. My goodness, I was sitting here getting ready to set up for stream, and I heard this yell. At least I thought it was a yell, but I wasn't entirely certain, and then I was like, was that a cat? Was it a vehicle? What the fuck was that? And I went to check on the husband to make sure it wasn't him. I was like, are you okay? He goes, yeah. I was like, what was that noise? He goes, it's kids across the street. I was like, are you fucking serious? They're like in the church parking lot fucking around. The church has 2 basketball hoops up that I think is really supposed to be for their youth group, youth nights that they do like once a week, or sometimes do once a week. I don't know if they do it through the summer, but they usually do something during the school year, 1 day a week, because they'll be out there doing like, I don't know if they're like team building things or what, because they're like playing some kind of games and stuff out there, and I think that's what the basketball hoops were for, because there's 2 of them now. But now I've been seeing like regular, just I think neighborhood kids using them when nobody's at the church. But I'm like, why are you screaming? It's like, what is happening? Yeah, I don't even know. Because they weren't on the playground, they were back in the corner. of the thing at the basketball court. I was like, okay, I guess. And I had not seen these kids before until recently. So I think these are people that have just moved in. Wait, possibly, or maybe they've been here for a while and they're just coming over to just use the basketball net since they've seen them. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's basketball hoops anywhere else in town, and there might be a couple down at the park, next to the grocery store. Maybe. But I don't know if there's nets on those. The last time we walked through there, I think I'm vaguely remembering seeing some hoops, but don't really remember if I saw any nets. I mean, I guess you don't necessarily have to have... Oh, careful. I don't think you necessarily have to have a net. Oh, it's a motorcycle. I'm like, is that thunder? Wasn't supposed to storm today. No, that's a motorcycle. We're gonna be...
Tomorrow's only a small chance.
When I last looked... Let me see. Let me find...
I
Oh.
believe you.
Well, I mean, I didn't check today, and they keep fucking changing it. So... This is saying a 13% chance of rain tomorrow night. Tuesday, scattered thunderstorms with a 45% chance. And Wednesday, a 45% chance of thunderstorms. Sorry, somebody's revving their engine. And then we've got like the end of the week into next week.
So it got pushed back, yeah.
Yeah, they're saying a chance of rain tomorrow night. Which I'm trying to figure out. If it's just rain, it doesn't matter.
I'm really not worried about it. I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Yeah, it's not showing thunderstorms, just maybe a chance of showers. Very small chance, like under 15%. So, I mean, that should be fine. So we're supposed to grill tomorrow. I mean, there's a line of storms in the middle of Oklahoma right now that look pretty damn nasty. They're not acting like we're gonna get a piece of that. If we did, it would be tonight. Maybe overnight, but maybe it's gonna fall apart by the time it gets that far. Wait, what is this now? Okay, yeah, I could have done without looking at that headline. Alright. Right. Alright, so I'm gonna trim that off. And work on getting this guy tapped into here. Windows 11 likes to tell me, hey, there's breaking news, and I see this like little red notification at the bottom of my taskbar with like a number in it for how many urgent breaking news things there are that I need to see right now. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? And I'm like, oh. Okay. Sure. You bet. It also tells me the weather, but it's not always as up to date as our local TV station is. Like, it'll still be telling me it's sunny and like 85, and I'm like looking outside, I'm like, You're drunk, Windows 11. Go home. The moon's out. It's dark. I don't think you're quite up to date there, my friend. Alright, what time is it? Okay, we still got a good hour ish. 45 minutes to go today. Alright. What happened there? I got this big chunk of green here. It's getting a little unruly. This whole thing's actually a little unruly here. Alright. Let's see. Where do we want to overlap you? Maybe about there. Thereabouts is probably pretty good. Sorry if I see any of these little flyaway guys. I've been trying to tap them down. As I've been going. I think we're kind of where we need to be. So this doesn't need to match up with the other side as far as like how your rows are positioned, because you kind of don't want them to look too rowy, I guess. It's not really a word. You don't want them to be like too uniform. So each row can be different heights or lengths. I mean, you could really make each set of fluff a different length if you really want to. Sometimes these ends, when I trim it, are a little unruly about being attached. So they take a little extra fussing to get into place here. But we will see. That's gonna work out here. Oh, jeez. Okay. That one was pretty stuck in there. Okay. So this guy, I'm more worried about where this is gonna cover the bottom of that top row, because I don't want to totally overtake it. But, you know, we'll see. I also don't want too much of our base green constantly breaking through, you know, like little hints of it here and there, fine. let's see here. Where do we want to trim you? That's probably pretty good in there. You know, we just don't want it to be too uniform all the way across. Because we're supposed to be, you know, like overgrown and all that shit. And we will see how things go. Like, we want it to be a little bit messy and disorganized here in this part. So, if I'm remembering correctly, there's at least one big tree. At least one. It's Bob, so, you know, it probably is. And I think it's over here. I think. Because he's got a fence that comes in through here. So I think it's over here. So this guy's a little bit thick here. I'm trying to get it to cooperate. It doesn't wanna. But that's okay. It's fluff. It's a little bit more forgiving than some things. Alright. Okay. I'm pretty happy with how this one's coming out. Really digging our bridge here. That came out really good. You okay? Cat! Ooh. Leave it alone. Jesus Christ. Almost ripped everything off my desk. I thought Russell was crinkling something, and I'm like, you alright? Then I realized he wasn't in the room, and that was a cat fucking with something that they shouldn't have been messing with. I was like, what the hell do you have that's making a plastic crinkling noise, husband? Because I don't think we have anything that would be making that noise. No, it was the cat fucking with something. And then I almost ripped my headphones out of the port on the speaker. I will say I did not think that the edit on the gouache painting was gonna take that long. However, I should have realized it because of how I'm choosing to edit it. Trying to edit out every time I go back and refill my brush. And I'm like, oh my god, why? Like, right, I apparently kept re-dipping the brush pretty good amount of time here. Right. Great. And then I realized my arm was in the way in the shot for a good portion of it when I was working on the left-hand side of it. I was like, oh good. So it's just gonna be what it's gonna be on that recording, because I'm like, I can't go back and redo it now. On the plus side, I did finally finish going through all of my music from the other PC. Some stuff I got rid of, and then I got most of my playlists set back up on this PC. That took me a few days while I was in the middle of working on art projects and doing video edits, and it's like I'd edit for a few minutes and I'm like, okay, I need to look at something else now. My brain just needed something else running. I hate to multitask and I'm terrible at it. But if I'm not trying to do more than one thing at once, then trying to focus on the one thing is hell. Sometimes. I'm really beginning to think I have ADHD. Holy shit. Because then I sit there and I'm like, wow. I would probably be a force to be reckoned with if I could actually focus and get things done in a timely manner. It would be amazing. Now if we can just get this bit here attached, that would be great. I have a paint by number I'm still working on. I haven't fucking finished it. I need to get working on that because I'm afraid the paint's gonna dry out. And if the paint dries out, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. On getting the top attached first. So I mean, we've made a little bit of progress today. Not a huge amount, but we are in the slower, one of the slower sections, but we are seeing it start to really take shape here. And come together. I'm thinking about priming those dowels off stream, because the gesso takes a little bit to dry. Since I don't have to cut them. If I had to cut them, I definitely would be cutting them off stream. Because it takes a little bit to get through it, and I can't cut them at this desk because the amount of force it takes for me to cut them by hand. I mean, we probably could have just tried to cut them with the Dremel. But I don't think we have the right bit for the Dremel to do that. To be perfectly honest. But we don't need to cut this one, so it doesn't really matter because we're in the landscape orientation. Whenever we have to go to the portrait orientation, then we'll need to cut them just because of the length and stuff, so. Alright, let me see here. Okay. So we'll get this guy worked into here. Well, I do want to do some more with the gouache. I do like it. But, what gouache do I have right now? I have the Hemi gouache. The Hemi Mia, the jelly gouache. It actually hadn't re-solidified entirely on me yet. It was starting to. But, I managed to get some more water in there and finish up what we were working on there. Let's see if we can get this a little bit more under control here. Just a little bit. Maybe kinda sorta. So if it feels like your top edge is a little too rounded, you can always come in with your needle and gently pull apart some of those strands to get them separated out. That is an option. Or you can just come back in with your skizzers and just kind of trim off the top rounded edge so it's not quite so rounded. But if you want the rounded edge, then go for it. I mean, this is really going to be about what you're looking for and how your piece is attempting to come together. And seeing how things go. So the Bob Ross channel or the Bob Ross Empire, I guess we should really call it for what it is. They had been doing live streams over the weekends on Bob Ross's Twitch channel for a while now, a good while, where they're just rerunning the seasons of The Joy of Painting. And you know, they've got their whole Twitch chat thing where people are typing ruined into the thing, and then, you know, him saving it. It's a whole thing over there. And somewhat recently, he, or not he, but those running things started doing it on, give me 1 second, started doing it on YouTube. And I will say, it is a different kind of chat on YouTube than it is on Twitch, which I found fascinating. It's not entirely different. Like, they still do the rip devil count and stuff with the chat commands on YouTube. But it's funny because some people, I guess, didn't know that they were doing that on Twitch and had never been to the Twitch chat. Because they're like, what the heck is Rip Devil? And then people are like, oh, it's just something that people do here. Like, they were being weird about it. It's like, no, that actually came over from Twitch. You sure? Alright. Sorry, husband vanished for a little bit. Okay, you'd been gone for a while, so I didn't know. Last time I heard movement from you, I thought I heard you going into the bathroom. I'm like, you've been gone a really long time. So make sure you were okay. Okay. I was gonna say, you didn't say you were going to lay down, so. Do I need to make you dinner?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. If you are planning on laying down early, can you put the trash... Oh no, wait. Holiday weekend.
So just to need a fire.
I'll have to check the thing on the fridge to see if they adjusted for Memorial Day. Because now I'm not sure. It might be Tuesday pickup, not Monday pickup this week. I gotta look. Everything changing. Oh God, if we ever move, that's gonna be a bitch to get used to. New trash days, new recycling days. I'm gonna have to have notes everywhere. Okay, so this section is probably gonna be pretty yellow-fied in here. That's okay. That's okay. It helps break up. We're pretty heavy on the green on this side. How's your download-a-thon going? I'm gonna trim that guy up just a bit. Alright, make sure we get all of our bottom edges from our trim good and anchored here. So tomorrow I'm gonna try to start, I say this, so it means it probably won't happen, but I am gonna make a valiant effort to try to start around 1:30 Central. So maybe a half hour to an hour early. It might be more like maybe a half hour early by the time I drag my ass out of bed. Because I don't have to do any, well, no, that's not true. Because I don't have to do any pre-dinner prep, but I do. So yeah, we'll try to start maybe around 1:30, 1:45 then. If I manage to actually drag my ass out of bed at 1 o'clock, that might give me enough time to get the pre-dinner prep done. Because we're grilling out, we're gonna have baked potatoes, corn, baked potatoes can probably go in right near where we're wrapping up tomorrow. Because I think the other stuff's not gonna take all that long since we're doing the other stuff inside. Alright. So we'll get these guys all tapped down into here. And go from there. Oh, I hear a Zuzu. Now, you could probably use like old t-shirts and stuff as bases for this, because I saw one lady needle felting on a canvas tote bag very carefully, but she was able to do it. I doubt you'd be able to get too many layers built up on that, and I wouldn't want to personally do it on a piece of canvas like that. And I don't think like an actual canvas, like painting canvas, would work that well personally. I've never tried it though, but I feel like the stuff would just come out, or you would eventually end up ripping it because it's so taut. That's not something I'd really want to attempt personally. But you can do this on quite a few different surfaces. I mean, you'd probably be able to do like cross-stitch cloth too. Probably. I would test a tiny corner before before going too gung-ho with a project though. I don't know if it would quite look the same. But I haven't had the funds to get that experimental. Momo, go with Dad. Come on.
Come on, go outside. You
Come
get a
on.
little grass. Come on.
Momo, let's go.
Come on, Momo. Grass time. Come.
Come on.
Come on.
Is he getting up?
Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch.
I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to get up and grab him. Because Russell would no sooner sit down and then Momo would be like, hey, what about me? Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you. The hummingbird feeders need food.
There hasn't been any hummingbirds.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh. The one year we were getting them pretty good. Alright, I'm just kind of brushing everybody down here. Flatten us out. Oh, look. We've got all kinds of fluff in this pad here. I need to find my X-Acto knife and try to scrape some of that down. Just to see if we can get this pad to hang in there just a little bit longer. Just a little bit. So I do want to try to make sure I'm coming over the edge here a little. It kind of gives it a little bit more of that like wildy overgrown feel, but it's also serving a dual purpose of covering up our seam right there between our green grass base and our roadway pathway thing. I'm calling mine a pathway because it just didn't seem quite wide enough to be a road that vanished. It just wasn't used anymore. Alright, and it's kind of okay that this one went a little willy-nilly. Because when we come back through with our next round of color, it'll be overlapping a bit, so that's alright. This is a thick boy though, let me tell you. That's the back side. That's the thickness of our felt on top of it, so he's a thick guy there. Okay, I always get one side bowing out more than the other. It drives me crazy. I don't know how I managed to do this. Alright, so let's see. It's about 4 o'clock. Trying to think of if I just want to pause here for right now. And we finish this section out tomorrow and then start our tree, which is I think what we're gonna do, because I do have to cook dinner for my mom and it's gonna be a little bit involved tonight because of the sauce I'm making. So yeah, I think we'll pause right there. Because by the time I get the next color set mixed in, we'll probably have to stop, and then I don't want to have that lump of fluff sitting around all night. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll pause that there, I think. So yeah, we're getting there. We are making progress. We finished off that side and with this round of color, and then we're working through over here, and it kind of has that messy overgrown wild, it's doing what it wants sort of thing, and then we've got our darker section back in here, so we're getting the point across here with the stuff that Bob's done so far and what have you. So I'm pretty okay with where we are so far. I just realized that's quite a straight line back there, but that's alright. Oh, let's get us more in the middle here for everything that we got going on. So yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little chaotic, but his was a little chaotic too. So I'm like, we're okay. We're okay here. Looking forward to starting the next one, because then we'll be working with, well, there still will be green. It's Bob. There's always a shit ton of green, but we'll have a different sort of thing to look at. I think it's a lakeside or a cove or something that we'll be looking at with that. So tomorrow we will be doing we'll be doing this. Tuesday I'm not planning on doing anything this week. Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm not planning on it. I still kind of want to get back into Dinkum. That could be a late night stream though. Or maybe we'll just pop in and do a quick afternoon thing. It depends on what the husband's doing and what's going on with that. I think my mom has another doctor's appointment on Wednesday. But yeah, so we will be doing Planet Zoo on Friday, Coral Island on Thursday. I was originally thinking we weren't doing Zoo this coming Friday because I thought we had the early access, but since we don't, we will be doing Zoo Friday and Saturday. And then we'll still be doing art next Sunday and Monday, because D4 is not going to kick off for us personally until the 6th. So, we got that going. But we're going to call it there for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I do appreciate that very much. I don't see any of my other people's doing anything here. I don't think. Let me see if I can get the thing bumped out to look at the other list. No, not really. So yeah, we'll just kind of call it there for today. So, you guys have a good evening. I appreciate you very much. Make sure you follow the doodles down below for the socially things, and I will see you tomorrow, and we'll pick back up on putting in the rest of our grass section. So until then, you guys have a good one.